August 6, 1945.
A clear summer morning in Hiroshima.
29-year-old Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a naval engineer for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, was getting ready to leave.
He had spent the last 3 months on a business trip, designing a new oil tanker, and now it was finally time to go home to his wife Hisako and their infant son Katsutoshi. But as he walked to the train station, he realized he had forgotten his travel permit. He turned back. It was a simple, forgettable moment, a tiny detour in his day.
But this small act of forgetfulness would alter the course of his life, and indeed, history itself.
At 8:15 a.m., as he walked back towards the shipyard, he looked up at the sky.
He saw a single American B-29 bomber, the Enola Gay, soaring overhead.
From its belly, a small object was dropped.
Yamaguchi watched it fall, tethered to a parachute.
And then the world turned white. A blinding, searing magnesium flash erupted, a silent sun that consumed the entire sky. He instinctively dove to the ground, covering his eyes with his hands and plugging his ears with his thumbs. The sound came a split second later, a deafening, world-shattering roar. The shock of lifted him from the ground, spun him through the air like a leaf in a tornado, and slammed him back down into a potato patch nearly 2 miles away.
When he opened his eyes, everything was dark.
The sun had vanished, replaced by a monstrous mushroom cloud of dust, smoke, and debris that blotted out the daylight.
The world he knew just moments before was gone. Buildings were flattened into piles of splintered wood and twisted metal.
Fires raged everywhere. His eardrums were ruptured, and the left side of his body was severely burned, the skin peeling away.
But he was alive.
Dazed and disoriented, he stumbled through a hellscape he couldn't comprehend.
The city was a graveyard.
Survivors, with burned skin hanging from their bodies like rags, walked aimlessly through the ruins like ghosts in their own city. Yamaguchi, despite his own horrific injuries, found 2 of his colleagues who had also survived. Together, they navigated the smoldering wasteland, spending a terrifying night in an air raid shelter amidst the constant cries of the wounded and the dying. The next morning, what remained of Hiroshima was a scene of utter devastation. Yamaguchi, burned and temporarily blind, knew he had one mission: get home. He had to know if his family was safe.
He fought his way through the rubble and ash to the train station.
Miraculously, it was still partially operational.
He boarded a train packed with other burned and wounded survivors, a train of the walking dead.
The journey was a nightmare. Through the windows, he saw a continuous panorama of destruction. The train moved slowly through a scorched landscape, a world painted in shades of grey and black. For the next day, he sat in darkness, in pain, listening to the groans of fellow passengers, the reality of what he'd endured slowly sinking in. When he finally arrived in his hometown of Nagasaki on August 8th, he was a wraith. He staggered to the hospital where an old school friend, a doctor, was shocked to see him. He didn't even recognize Yamaguchi at first.
His own mother thought he was a ghost. His body was wrapped tightly in bandages, a fever raging through him.
But he was home.
He was with Hisako and Katsutoshi,
in the relative safety of his house, surrounded by his family. He must have thought the worst was over.
He had survived the apocalypse.
The next morning, on August 9th, Yamaguchi, despite his severe injuries, reported for work at the Mitsubishi office in Nagasaki. He had to report what had happened in Hiroshima.
He walked into his manager's office, his body still a canvas of pain, and began to recount the unbelievable story.
He described the single plane, the blinding flash, the city vanishing in an instant.
His manager was skeptical.
"You're an engineer, Yamaguchi," he said. "How could a single bomb destroy an entire city?"
"You must be delirious from your injuries." At that very moment, at precisely 11:02 a.m., as Yamaguchi was describing the atomic blast, the world outside the window turned white again.
The very same searing, silent flash he had witnessed just 3 days earlier filled the room.
Once again, he instinctively dropped to the floor.
The shockwave hit, shattering the office windows and sending glass and debris flying. The impossible had happened.
Another atomic bomb had been dropped, this time on Nagasaki, and Tsutomu Yamaguchi was at the epicenter of history for a second time.
The bomb detonated just under 2 miles from where he stood.
The blast tore his bandages from his body, but miraculously, his existing injuries protected him from immediate new ones. He had already been wounded by one atomic bomb. The second one could do little more.
He scrambled from the demolished office building, desperate to check on his family. He raced through the newly created wasteland of his own hometown, a horrifying echo of what he had just escaped. He feared the worst. His home was destroyed, but by an almost unbelievable stroke of luck, his wife and son had been out shopping for burn ointment for him when the bomb fell.
They had taken shelter in a tunnel and survived the blast with only minor injuries.
In the span of 72 hours, Tsutomu Yamaguchi had been within 2 miles of 2 separate nuclear detonations.
He had looked into the heart of 2 man-made suns and lived to tell the tale.
The statistical probability is so infinitesimally small, it borders on the impossible.
He was a living testament to both the worst of human destruction and the profound resilience of the human spirit.
For years, Yamaguchi kept his story quiet. He was officially recognized as a hibakusha, a survivor of the Nagasaki bombing, which granted him certain medical benefits.
But he rarely spoke of Hiroshima. The Japanese government was reluctant to acknowledge that anyone could have been in both cities. To them, he was one of many. But to himself, he was a man twice damned, twice spared.
He suffered for years from the physical and psychological trauma. He lost his hearing in one ear, his hair fell out, and the burns on his arm took years to heal. He and his wife even worried about the long-term health effects on their children.
But he carried on.
He worked as a translator for the American Armed Forces, then as a schoolteacher, sharing his love for poetry. He raised his family and lived a quiet, unassuming life.
He watched his children grow up, get married, and have children of their own. It wasn't until he was in his 80s that Yamaguchi began to truly embrace his unique position in history. As he saw the world teetering on the edge of new conflicts, he felt a duty to speak out.
He had witnessed humanity's greatest destructive power not once, but twice.
He believed his impossible survival was not a curse, but a mission.
It was his destiny to tell the world about the horrors of nuclear weapons. He began to share his story publicly, writing a book and participating in a documentary. In 2009, the Japanese government officially recognized him as a survivor of both the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, the only person to ever hold that distinction.
He became a powerful voice for nuclear disarmament, traveling the world to share his testimony. He spoke at the United Nations, his presence a quiet but profound indictment of nuclear proliferation.
"The reason that I hate the atomic bomb," he said, "is because of what it does to the dignity of human beings." Tsutomu Yamaguchi passed away in 2010 at the age of 93 from stomach cancer. He lived a long life, one filled with love, family, and purpose.
His story is not just one of impossible odds or dumb luck. It is a story about the strength of the human will to live. It's a harrowing reminder of the catastrophic consequences of war, and a plea for peace that echoes from the past.
His journey through the fire of 2 nuclear suns serves as a timeless warning. He was an ordinary man who experienced an extraordinary, terrifying fate, and chose to turn his personal tragedy into a message of hope for all of humanity.
His legacy is the hope that no one would ever have to endure what he did again.
Thank you for watching.
If this story moved you, please consider sharing it and subscribe for more chapters from history.